Evelyn Carter dropped the kettle, yanked her shawl off the nail, and ran out the door of the relay station without her boots. The cry came again, thin, broken, wrong. She tore across the frozen yard toward the rusted cattle wagon nobody had touched in 4 days. "Hold on," she gasped into the black October wind. Hold on, I hear you." Her knees slammed into mud, gone hard as iron. Her bare hands ripped at the rope on the latch. And what Evelyn Carter pulled out of that wagon was going to cost her everything she had left. Before we go any further into this story, I want you to do me one small favor. Hit that subscribe button down below and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from tonight so I can see how far this story's traveling. Stay with me all the way to the end, because what Evelyn found inside that wagon was still breathing. The latch gave. She swung the door wide and the cry hit her full in the chest, wet and weak, and doubled. 2. There were 2 of them. "Lord have mercy," she whispered. "Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy." She climbed up into the wagon on her knees. Straw. Old straw, and the sour stink of abandonment. A shape in the corner wrapped in something dark. Evelyn crawled to it, and her hand touched wool rough military issue, the kind they sold surplus at the depot after the war. Inside the blanket, 2 newborns. One already quiet. That was what made her hands start shaking. "No," she said. "No, no, no, you look at me. You look at me right now." She tore the blanket back. The smaller one, a boy she could see it plain, had gone blue around the mouth. The other, a girl, was still crying, but her cry was turning into something that wasn't a cry anymore. A whimper. A fading. "You ain't dying on my land," Evelyn said. Her voice had gone hard the way it used to go when her husband was alive and something needed fixing. "You hear me? You ain't dying on my land tonight." She gathered them both against her chest, one in each arm, and half slid, half fell out of the wagon. Her feet hit the mud, and she ran. The back of her neck burned with cold. The babies were colder. The babies were so cold she could feel it through the blanket and through her dress. She kicked the station door open because her hands were full. "Stove," she said out loud to nobody. "Stove, stove, stove." She laid them on the rug in front of the potbelly and ripped her own shawl off and dropped it on top of them. Then she threw 3 more logs in the stove and jammed the iron door shut and turned back to the twins on the floor. The boy wasn't moving. "Come on, little man." She picked him up and put her mouth against his. Not a kiss. A breath. She'd seen her grandmother do it once with a lamb. She blew. Soft. Soft. "Come on, come on, come on. You ain't done. You ain't done yet." His chest gave the smallest shiver. "That's it," she said, crying now, not knowing she was crying. "That's it. That's it. There you go." The girl cried louder, angry. Evelyn almost laughed. "You got fight in you," she said. "Good. Good, you keep fighting. You fight like your mama should have fought for you." She got up. She needed milk. She didn't have milk. She hadn't kept a dairy cow in 3 years. She had 2 goats, old ones, neither one freshened since spring. "Think," she told herself. "Think, Evelyn. Think." Sugar water. She'd heard midwives talk. Sugar water warm on a clean rag. It wouldn't feed them, but it might hold them till she could figure something else. She grabbed the sugar tin, poured water from the kettle she'd dropped, and refilled and stirred with her finger until it dissolved. She tore a strip from a clean flour sack, dipped it, knelt. "Open up, sweet girl. Open up for me." She brushed the rag against the baby's lip. Once. Twice. The little mouth opened. Sucked. Sucked harder. "That's right," Evelyn said. "There you go. There you go. There you go." The boy was harder. She had to stroke his throat the way you do with a colt that won't swallow medicine. But on the 4th try he took it, and then he took more. And then outside she heard hoofbeats. Fast ones. A full gallop coming in off the west road at an hour when no decent traveler ought to be on it. Evelyn stood up. Every part of her that wasn't a mother went still. She took the Winchester off the hooks above the door. She didn't cock it. Not yet. She laid it across her arm the way her husband had taught her, and she stepped to the window and pulled back the curtain half an inch. A rider, a big one. Dark hat, dark coat, reining in hard. "Ma'am," he called out. "Ma'am, you the one at the relay station?" She didn't answer. He swung down off the horse. He didn't approach the door. He stood in her yard with his hands out from his sides, where she could see them. "Name's Jack Turner," he called. "I run cattle up at the Turner place about 4 miles north. I was riding the fence line and I saw your door standing open and the lamp burning. I figured something was wrong. I ain't armed past my belt gun, and I ain't stepping closer till you tell me to." Evelyn put her eye to the crack between the door and the frame. "You alone, Mr. Turner?" "Yes, ma'am." "You see the cattle wagon on the east side of my property?" A pause. "Empty one." "Yes, ma'am. Been there near a week by the rust on the latch." "It wasn't empty." Another pause. Longer. "Ma'am? Somebody left something in it. Somebody left 2 somethings in it. I need you to tell me if you seen any wagons come through here in the last 4 days. Anybody. I don't care how small." His voice changed, got quieter. "Ma'am, open the door, please. I got a rifle." "I figured you did, ma'am. I'd think less of you if you didn't. Open the door." She opened the door 6 inches. Jack Turner was tall. That was the first thing. Tall the way men got tall when they'd worked outside their whole life with shoulders pulled wide by rope and reins. He had a mustache going gray at the corners and eyes that didn't flinch off hers. He looked past her. He saw the bundle on the rug in front of the stove. He saw the sugar sack torn on the table. He saw the Winchester in her hand. "Good Lord in heaven," he said, and the words came out soft. "How old are they?" "I don't know. 2 days, 3. Somebody cut the cord ragged. The boy near went blue before I got him warm." "Have they ate?" "Sugar water. That's all I got." "Ma'am, that ain't gonna hold them. Not till sunup, not even till midnight." "I know that, Mr. Turner. I'm working on it." "My sister's got a cow freshened 2 weeks ago. She's up at the house 4 miles out. We wrap these babies tight and we ride. We can be there before they crash." "Mr. Turner, I don't know you." "No, ma'am, you don't." "I don't know your sister." "No, ma'am." "I don't know why a cattle rancher is riding my fence line at 10 o'clock on an October night." He didn't get defensive. He just stood there in her doorway with his hat in his hand now. "My sister's boy had the croup last winter," he said. "I lost a week of sleep, maybe more, listening to him breathe. I know what it sounds like when a child ain't gonna make it. I came because your door was open and your lamp was burning, and somebody who runs a relay station alone don't leave their door open after dark unless something's gone wrong. That's all the reason I got, ma'am. You want me to ride off, I'll ride off. But them babies ain't gonna live till morning on sugar water, and you know it as well as I do." Evelyn stared at him. She stared at him for a long moment, while the girl made a small sound behind her. The kind of sound that wasn't a cry anymore, but a question. She lowered the rifle. "What's your sister's name?" "Hannah. Hannah Turner. Widowed 3 years back. Got 1 boy of her own 9 months old. She'll help. She won't ask questions till they're fed." "And you?" "Ma'am." "Will you ask questions?" He looked at her steady. "Not tonight." "All right, Mr. Turner." Evelyn turned for the stove. "All right, help me wrap them." She took a clean wool blanket off the shelf and doubled it. Jack Turner did not step to the babies before she did. He waited. He let her lift them. Then he stepped forward and held the blanket while she bundled them together, the 2 of them sharing body heat, the way their mother should have let them share it. "Ma'am," he said, "there ain't gonna be room on 1 horse. I'll take the wagon, hitch the pony. The road's froze to ruts. A wagon'll jostle them half to death. Then what? You ride with me, you hold them. I'll keep the horse slow enough that nothing shakes. It's 4 miles. We can be there in under 40 minutes if the wind holds." Mr. Turner, I am a widow, and I have not sat a horse with a man in 6 years. Ma'am, I ain't asking you to court me. I'm asking you to save their lives." She looked at him. "Fair enough," she said. She got her coat. She got her boots. She put out the stove just enough that it wouldn't burn the place down while she was gone. She turned the lamp down. And at the door with the twins tight against her chest, she stopped. "Mr. Turner." "Ma'am?" "If anything happens to me on that road, if I go down off that horse, you grab them and you ride. You don't come back for me. You understand?" "Ma'am." "You understand?" "Yes, ma'am, I understand." "Good." He swung up first. She handed him the bundle. He held it one-handed against his chest, the way a man holds something he's already decided to die for, and he reached the other hand down to her. She took it. She came up behind him on the horse, and he passed the babies back to her, and she held them tight, and he nudged the horse into a slow, careful walk, then a slow, careful trot, and then the frozen road opened up in front of them, and the wind cut sideways, and Evelyn bent her body over the twins to break the cold. "Mr. Turner." "Yes, ma'am." "You talk, the whole way. You keep talking. I don't want them hearing just the wind." "Yes, ma'am." He was quiet a breath. Then, "My sister's gonna like you." "Why's that?" "'Cause you don't quit. Hannah don't quit either. She come home from burying her husband and the next morning she was in the barn milking. That's the kind of woman she is." "My husband's been gone 6 years." "I figured." "How?" "'Cause a woman who runs a relay station alone for 6 years answers the door with a rifle instead of a kettle. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's how she lasted." Evelyn almost laughed. It came out a sound close to crying. "You got a wife, Mr. Turner?" "No, ma'am." "Ever?" He didn't answer right away. "Once," he said. "I'm sorry." "Ma'am, tonight ain't the night for that story." "All right." They rode. The wind dropped for a mile, then picked up again. The boy stirred against her, and she shushed him, and he settled. The girl had not made a sound in 15 minutes. Evelyn put her ear against the bundle until she heard the breath. Slow, but there. "Mr. Turner, how much further?" "1.5 miles." "They're slowing down." "Hannah's awake. I told her I'd be back by midnight. She'll have the stove hot and the cow milked by the time we hit the gate. You tell me if they stop breathing, and I'll make this horse fly." "They ain't stopped yet." "Then we don't fly yet." The gate of the Turner Ranch came up out of the dark, and a lantern swung on the porch, and a woman was already running down the steps before Jack got the horse stopped. She was younger than Evelyn had pictured, black hair in a braid, a shawl over a nightdress. "Give her to me," Hannah said, arms out. Give them sweet mercy, Jack, what happened?" "Cattle wagon," Jack said. "Mrs. Carter pulled them out of that old cattle wagon sittin' on her east line. They ain't ate. I got milk warm, and I got Mr. Harris's boy's old christening gown. It'll fit 'em both. Come on inside, ma'am. Don't you stand out in that wind." Evelyn came off the horse half falling, and Hannah caught her elbow and half carried her up the porch, and inside the Turner ranch house there was heat, real heat, and a cow's worth of milk already sitting warm on the back of the stove, and a baby of Hannah's own, sleeping in a cradle in the corner. And Hannah went to work on the twins without so much as asking Evelyn's name. "Girl first," Hannah said. "Girl's weaker. You hold the boy. Open his blanket just the top. Let him feel skin. He needs to feel skin." Evelyn did what she was told. She opened her coat, and she opened her dress at the neck, the way a woman will when there's nothing else left, and she laid the boy against her collarbone, and he stopped whimpering. "That's right," Hannah murmured. "That's right, little man. You stay with us. Your sister's eating." The girl had latched onto the cloth teat Hannah rigged from a bottle and a bit of chamois. She was drinking. Real drinking. Evelyn started to shake. "Ma'am," Hannah said. "Ma'am, you with me. I'm with you. Sit down. There. On the settle. Jack. Jack, get her a cup of something, she's going into it." "Into what?" Evelyn said. "The shake. You've been cold and scared 4 hours straight and your body's figuring out it's allowed to quit now. Sit, breathe. The babies are alive." Evelyn sat. Jack pressed a tin cup of something hot into her free hand. She didn't know what it was. She drank it. "Whiskey and honey," Jack said. "My grandmother's. Don't argue." "I wasn't gonna." Hannah, still working on the girl, spoke without looking up. "Jack, who knows about this?" "Nobody yet. It's gonna get out by noon tomorrow." "I know." "Roe's gonna hear." Jack's jaw went tight. "I know." "Who's Roe?" Evelyn said. Jack and Hannah looked at each other. "County Commissioner," Jack said finally. "Silas Roe. He handles abandoned children in this district. Officially, he hands them to the orphanage up in Hayes City. Unofficially. Jack. She's gonna have to know Hannah." "Not tonight." "Yes, tonight. Tomorrow morning the commissioner is gonna hear there's 2 babies at the Turner place, and he's gonna come for them, and Mrs. Carter needs to know that before she falls asleep on our settle." Evelyn looked between them. "Come for them," Hannah sighed. "Ma'am," Hannah said, "the county gets paid per child delivered to the orphanage. $50 a head. Roe's the one signs the papers. He's got a private arrangement with the orphanage director. They pack them in 12 to a room. Children die. Nobody counts. Roe don't care 'cause Roe's already got his $50, and the orphanage don't care 'cause they already got whatever they got." $50? Evelyn said. "A piece. A piece. For a newborn. For any child nobody's claimed." Evelyn set the tin cup down very carefully on the arm of the settle. "Mr. Turner." "Ma'am." "These babies are not going to that orphanage." "No, ma'am, I didn't figure they were. I want to be plain. I ain't deciding this in the morning. I ain't deciding this after I sleep. I'm deciding it now. You and your sister are witnesses. These children are not leaving this ranch to go to Silas Roe, or anybody holds his pen for him. I will shoot a man before I let it happen. You understand me?" "Ma'am, I understand you." Hannah quiet said, "Ma'am, what's your given name?" "Evelyn." "Evelyn, I'm Hannah. That's my brother Jack. Welcome to the Turner place." Evelyn looked down at the boy against her collarbone. He had opened his eyes. They were the darkest blue she'd ever seen on a living thing, and they were looking up at her, and they were not closing. "Hello, little man," she whispered. He didn't make a sound. He just kept looking. "You and your sister got a long road," she told him. "But you ain't walking it alone, not one step." Jack Turner stood in his sister's kitchen, with his hat still in his hand, and he watched Evelyn Carter talk to that baby, and something in his face did a thing that hadn't happened in 6 years, and he turned away from it quick before either woman could see. "Hannah," he said, "get the spare room ready." "It's been ready, Jack." "I know. I kept it ready." "I know you did." Hannah finished feeding the girl and passed her over to Evelyn, and Evelyn took her and held both twins at once, one against each side of her chest, and she rocked where she sat, and she did not stop rocking, and somewhere around 3 in the morning she fell asleep, sitting up, and Hannah Turner took a quilt off the back of a chair and laid it over all 3 of them, and Jack Turner stepped out onto the porch. He stood out there a long time. He watched the road, and somewhere past 4, when the first gray was working up over the east rim of the Turner land, he said out loud to nobody, "Silas Roe, you ain't taking these children, not while I'm breathing, not while she's breathing, not one step." He went back inside. He hung his hat. He did not sleep, and on the settle by the stove, Evelyn Carter held 2 newborn babies who would not have been alive at sunrise if she had stayed inside her own kitchen, and for the first time in 6 years, her arms were full. Dawn came to the Turner ranch, the way dawn always came, that far west, slow, pale, and without apology. Hannah was already up. She'd been up since 4:30, and by the time Evelyn woke on the settle with both twins still pressed against her, Hannah had milked the cow a second time, warmed a pan of it over the coals, and cut clean strips of cheesecloth to rig 2 bottles. Evelyn's eyes opened. "They're alive," Hannah said. "Both of them. Girl even opened her eyes a minute ago, looked right at me." Evelyn let out a breath she had been holding for 6 hours. "Thank God." "Thank you. You're the one ran into the dark." "Hannah." "Ma'am." "Where's your brother?" "Out on the porch. Been out there since before I lit the stove." "Has he slept?" "No, ma'am. Evelyn sat up. Her back cracked. The girl stirred against her, and the boy made a small hungry sound, and Hannah was already holding out the first rigged bottle. "You feed him," Hannah said. "I'll take her." They worked in quiet. Two women who'd never met before last midnight, passing babies and bottles between them like they'd done it 1,000 times. When the boy had taken his fill and gone limp against Evelyn's shoulder, Hannah said without looking up, "Jack told me about the wagon. He tell you about Roe?" "He told me. I'd already figured." "How long before Roe hears?" Hannah thought about it. "Noon, maybe earlier. The Pritchard boy runs the mail out of Hayes at sunup, and the Pritchard boy talks. Somebody at your station's gonna see the wagon tracks to our gate, and somebody's gonna say something." "Then we got till noon." "Till noon to do what, Evelyn?" Evelyn didn't answer that. She couldn't yet. She kissed the top of the boy's head and stood up with him and walked to the porch door. Jack was leaning on the rail with his coffee gone cold in his hand. "Mr. Turner?" "Ma'am?" "You ought to come inside." "I'm studying the road." "The road'll still be there in 5 minutes. Come inside and eat." He turned and looked at her. Something had shifted in his face overnight, not softened exactly, but set. The way a man's face sets when he's already made a decision and is just waiting for the hour it has to be spoken out loud. "Mrs. Carter." "Jack, if we're going to do what I think we're going to do today, you can call me Evelyn." He looked down at the porch boards. "Evelyn." "Come inside." He came inside. He sat at Hannah's table. Hannah put a plate of eggs and biscuits in front of him, and he ate 3 bites and pushed it away. "Eat the rest," Hannah said. "I ain't hungry." "Eat the rest, Jack. You're no use to these babies fainting off your horse." He ate the rest. Evelyn sat across from him, with the boy asleep in the crook of her arm. The girl was in a wooden cradle Hannah had pulled out of the back room, a cradle that had clearly been made for another child years ago by hands that had sanded every corner smooth. "Jack," Evelyn said. "Ma'am." "Tell me about Roe." Jack set the fork down. "Silas Roe," he said, "came to this county 8 years back, bought the old Pendleton place on foreclosure for about 1/3 what it was worth. Got himself appointed county commissioner the next spring. Ain't never run for the seat. It was a vacant appointment, and the governor owed somebody a favor. He's got 2 deputies he pays out of his own pocket. He's got a lawyer named Dillard who handles every foreclosure, every widow's dispute, every abandoned child case in 3 counties. And he profits off the orphanage. Not directly. He profits off the delivery. $50 a head to the commissioner who signs the transfer. Dillard writes the papers. The orphanage director signs the receipt. Everybody's legal on paper." "How many children has he delivered?" Jack looked at her. "Last 3 years, near 40. Evelyn felt something cold slide through her chest. 40. "Most of them don't come out." "Jack?" "Ma'am, you asked?" Hannah set a cup of coffee in front of Evelyn. "There's a woman up in Hayes," Hannah said. "Used to work in that orphanage. She left last spring. She come through here on the way to her sister's in Nebraska, and she sat at this table and she cried for an hour. She told me things I ain't gonna say out loud in a room with 2 babies in it." "I understand." "No, ma'am, I don't think you do, but you will." Evelyn put both hands flat on the table. "What do we do?" Jack didn't answer right away. He looked at Hannah. Hannah looked back at him. Some conversation passed between them that had nothing to do with Evelyn, and then Hannah gave the smallest nod. "Jack?" "Hannah, don't." "Jack, tell her." "Hannah?" "She's the one holding the boy. You tell her." Jack Turner rubbed his jaw with the flat of his hand. "There's one way," he said. "There's one way to keep them off Roe's transfer list." "Tell me." "Guardianship. A married couple established on land with a clean record and 2 character witnesses can file for temporary guardianship of a foundling child inside 72 hours of the finding. It's an old territorial law, predates the commissioner system. If the papers get filed before Roe files his transfer, Roe can't take them. He'd have to petition the circuit judge to override, and the circuit judge don't come through till the first week of December. A married couple. Yes, ma'am. I ain't married, Jack. No, ma'am. And neither are you. No, ma'am. The silence that came down on Hannah's kitchen was the kind of silence a clock ticks through. Jack, Evelyn said. Are you asking me what I think you're asking me? Ma'am, I ain't asking. I'm telling you the only road I see. You take it or you don't. Either way, I'll stand between them and Roe as long as I'm breathing. I swear that on my mother's grave. But the law ain't gonna care what I swear. The law is gonna care what's written on the paper. Evelyn stared at him. I met you at 10 o'clock last night. Yes, ma'am. I do not know your middle name. Ezekiel. Jack Ezekiel Turner. Yes, ma'am. And you are asking me to marry you. I'm asking you to sign a paper that says we're married so a circuit judge can't pull 2 newborns out of your arms. That's what I'm asking. What happens after that paper gets signed is whatever you say happens. You want to go back to your station, you go back to your station. You want them raised here with Hannah, they get raised here with Hannah. You want them raised at your place, and you want me 4 miles away minding my cattle. I'll mind my cattle and come when you call. I ain't asking for a thing, Evelyn, not a thing. Jack. Ma'am? Why? Why what, ma'am? Why would a man offer this to a woman he met last night? Jack looked down at the table. Mrs. Carter. Evelyn. Evelyn. He took a slow breath. I told you last night tonight wasn't the night for my story. It's morning now. He was quiet a long time. I had a boy, he said. His name was Daniel. He was 4. His mama, my wife, she caught the fever in the spring of '79 and she went inside of a week. I thought I was going to lose my mind. But I had the boy. I had Daniel. And for 2 years after that, it was him and me on this ranch. And Hannah hadn't come out yet. And I taught him to ride, and I taught him his letters, and I taught him to sit a saddle, and... He stopped. Hannah at the stove didn't turn around. Diphtheria, Jack said. Fall of '81. Took him in 3 days. Town doctor couldn't do a thing. And the thing I remember, Evelyn, the thing I remember is the last night he was alive, he looked up at me and he said, Pa, you ain't gonna leave me, are you? And I said, No, son, I ain't gonna leave you. And I didn't. I sat with him till morning, and morning come, and he was gone. Evelyn's throat had closed. I am sorry, Jack. I ain't told you that for pity, ma'am. I know you ain't. I told you 'cause you asked why. And the why is I already know what it feels like to stand over a child and not be able to do a thing. I ain't doing it again. Not while there's a road in front of me. These babies got a road in front of them. That's all the why I got. Evelyn reached across the table. She took Jack Turner's hand. He let her. All right, she said. Ma'am. All right, Jack. You're sure? I ain't sure of a thing in this world except that boy in my arms and that girl in your sister's cradle are not going to Silas Roe's orphanage. If a paper with our names on it is what keeps them out of it, then we sign the paper. And what comes after we figure out after. Fair enough. Fair enough, ma'am. Evelyn. Evelyn. Hannah turned around from the stove. Reverend Alcott, she said. He's in Fairfield. He owes Jack for pulling his roan out of a bog 3 winters back. He'll do the ceremony quick, and he won't ask a question. How far's Fairfield? 2 hours by wagon, hour and a half if Jack pushes. And the guardianship papers. Clerk of court's office is in the same town. They open at 9 and close at 4. If we ride now, we can be standing at the Reverend's door by 8, married by 8:30, at the clerk's by 9, and home by 2 in the afternoon. If Roe hears about it between now and then... He won't beat us to Fairfield, Jack said. He might beat us back. Let him. Evelyn stood up. The boy in her arm didn't stir. Hannah? Ma'am? The babies. They stay with me. I got milk, I got a cradle, I got a rifle over the door, and I got a boy of my own in the other room. Nothing gets past me till you come back with a paper says you're their kin. You're sure? Evelyn Carter. I buried my husband 3 years ago, and I spent most of that time wishing I'd had something worth fighting for. You brought it to my door. Don't insult me by asking if I'm sure. Evelyn's eyes stung. She put the boy in the cradle next to his sister. She bent and kissed each of them on the forehead. "I'll be back," she whispered. "Before sundown. Both of us. You hold on." The girl made a small sound. It sounded for a second like agreement. Jack was already pulling on his coat. "Evelyn, you got a dress at your station you'd want for this." "Jack Turner. I am 41 years old, and I am marrying you to save 2 children. I ain't wearing a dress I got married in the first time. I'll wear what I got on." He tipped his hat. "Yes, ma'am." They were in the wagon and on the Fairfield road inside of 10 minutes. Hannah stood on the porch with a child in her arms. Her own boy woken by the commotion, and she watched them go, until the wagon was a speck against the prairie. They were 6 miles along when Jack said without turning, "Evelyn." "Jack." "A rider." Evelyn turned in the seat. "A single horse, coming up behind them, fast." "Roe?" "Don't know yet, too far." "Jack." "I see him." Jack clucked to the team and they picked up. The wagon bounced hard. Evelyn grabbed the rail with one hand and her shawl with the other. "Jack, if it's Roe." "If it's Roe, I'll handle it." "Jack." "Evelyn, sit tight." The rider closed. Half a mile. A quarter. Evelyn could see the horse now, a bay, not Roe's black. She could see the hat. Not Roe's flat-brimmed commissioner's hat. "It ain't him," she breathed. "No, ma'am." The rider came up alongside. "Jack Turner. Deputy." "Hell of a morning to be on the Fairfield Road, Jack." "Business at the clerk's Pete. What's your hurry?" The deputy, young, maybe 25, face still boyish under the brim, slowed his horse to match the wagon. "Commissioner Roe sent me to your place." "Did he now?" "Said he had a report. There was 2 children brought to the Turner Ranch last night. Said he wanted to inspect." "Inspect." "His word, Jack." Jack's jaw went tight. "Pete, look at me." "I'm looking." "You got a wife, don't you?" "You know I do." "You got a daughter not yet a year old." "Jack, you answer me honest. You'd hand your daughter to Silas Roe." The deputy didn't answer. "Pete?" "Jack, I got a job." "That ain't what I asked you." The deputy looked at the road. "No," he said finally. "No, I wouldn't." "Good. Then you turn that horse around, and you ride back to Roe, and you tell him there wasn't nobody home at the Turner Ranch. You tell him the gate was shut. You tell him Jack and Hannah was out at the North Line moving cattle, and there wasn't a living soul on the property. You tell him that Pete and the next calf I brand one for your girl." The deputy stared at him. "Jack, Pete." "If he finds out I lied?" "He won't. Hannah'll see to that. She knows you're coming. She'll have the place shut up tight by the time you circle back." "Jack, he's gonna know something's off by tonight." "By tonight? I ain't gonna care what he knows." The deputy looked at Evelyn. He looked at Jack. He looked back down the road toward Roe. "God help me," he said. He turned the horse. Jack watched him go until the dust settled. "Evelyn." "I'm here. We got less time than I thought." "Drive, Jack." He drove. The Fairfield Road rolled out in front of the wagon, and Jack Turner pushed the team harder than he'd pushed any team in 5 years. And Evelyn Carter sat beside him with her hands folded tight in her lap, and somewhere behind them on the plain, Silas Roe was waking up to a report he hadn't yet been able to confirm. And somewhere ahead of them in the town of Fairfield, an old reverend was drinking his second cup of coffee without the first idea that before the hour was out, he was going to marry 2 strangers for the sake of 2 children whose names had not yet been spoken. The wagon crested the last rise. Fairfield came into view. Evelyn looked at Jack. Jack looked at Evelyn. Neither one of them said a word. They drove down into the town. Fairfield was already awake. Jack pulled the wagon up in front of the Reverend's parsonage and set the brake harder than he needed to. Evelyn was down off the seat before he'd finished tying the team. "Which door?" "Side. The one with the black cross over it." She knocked. The door opened a crack. An old man with eyes the color of rainwater squinted out at her. "Ma'am." "Reverend Alcott." "Yes, ma'am." "Jack Turner sent me." The Reverend's face changed. He opened the door wide. Jack! Jack came up the steps 2 at a time. Reverend, I need a favor. Come inside before you ask it. Folks in this town got eyes. They went in. The Reverend shut the door. He looked from Jack to Evelyn and back. Son, Reverend, this ain't a proposal gone quick. You got that look a man gets when somebody's life is on the line. 2 lives. Tell me. Jack told him. Short sentences. The wagon. The twins. Roe. The 72 hours. The deputy on the road. The Reverend sat down slow. Jack. Reverend. You understand what you're asking me to sign? I understand. A marriage is a sacrament, son. It ain't a piece of paper. Evelyn spoke before Jack could. Reverend Alcott. Ma'am, I ain't asking you to sanctify a lie. I'm asking you to witness a promise. I will stand by this man for as long as those babies need a roof. I will stand by him in a courtroom. I will stand by him at the gate of my own station with a rifle if it comes to that. That ain't nothing. That ain't a piece of paper. That's a covenant, Reverend, and I will swear it before God, and I will mean every word. The old Reverend looked at her a long moment. Your name, ma'am? Evelyn Margaret Carter, widow of Thomas Carter, relay station east line of the county. I knew Thomas. Did you? Buried him. Evelyn's breath caught. I didn't know. He was a good man, ma'am. He'd not hold this against you. I can tell you that for a fact. Evelyn had to look at the floor for a second. Thank you, Reverend. The Reverend stood. Mary, he called. Mary, come down. We got a wedding. His wife came down the stairs in her apron. She took one look at Evelyn's face and one look at Jack's, and she did not ask a single question. She just said, Let me fetch the book. And she was gone and back inside a minute with a leather Bible and 2 gold bands that looked like they'd been sitting in a dish on a windowsill for 40 years. These was my mother's, the Reverend's wife said. She'd want 'em used. Ma'am, I can't. Hush, child. Evelyn hushed. The ceremony took 4 minutes. Reverend Alcott did not shorten the vows. He spoke them slow and full the way he would have for any couple on any Sunday, and when he said, Do you? Evelyn, take this man. Evelyn said, I do, with a steadiness that surprised her. And when he said, Do you? Jack? Jack said, I do, and his voice did not shake, but his hand did just once as he slid the ring onto her finger. By the authority vested in me, the Reverend said, by the territory of Kansas, and by Almighty God, I pronounce you husband and wife. Jack, you may kiss your bride. Jack hesitated. Evelyn didn't. She rose up on her toes and kissed him once quick on the mouth and stepped back. That'll do, she said. Jack made a sound that was half a laugh and half something else. The Reverend signed the certificate. His wife signed as witness. Jack paid for nothing because the Reverend would not take money. Go, the old man said. Clerk's office opens in 14 minutes. Go. They went. The clerk of court's office sat on the 2nd floor of the Fairfield courthouse behind a door with frosted glass that said, Dilworth County Clerk, in gold letters going to flake. They got there at 8:56. The door was locked. Jack looked at his watch. 4 minutes. Jack! I see it. He saw it. At the end of the hall, a man in a commissioner's coat was walking toward them. Not Roe, worse. That's Dillard, Jack said under his breath. The lawyer. The lawyer. He works out of this courthouse twice a week. He ain't here to stop us. He don't know yet. But if he sees me standing at this door at 9 in the morning with a woman I just married, he's going to telegraph Roe inside the hour. Jack, turn. Where? Just turn. Face the window. Pretend we're reading the notice board. Jack turned. Evelyn turned. They stood shoulder to shoulder in front of a county notice board reading about a lost mule and a school board meeting while the lawyer Dillard walked past them, not 5 feet behind, and did not stop and did not look and went on down the stairs and out of the building. Evelyn exhaled. Jack. I know. Jack, he walked right past us. He ain't seen me in 2 years, and he don't know you at all. Thank God. Don't thank him yet. The clerk's door clicked. Inside, old Dilworth was turning his key. He opened the door at 9 straight up. "Morning." "Morning, Dilworth." "Jack Turner. What brings you to my door at the stroke of 9? "Guardianship filing." The clerk's eyebrows went up. "Whose?" "2 foundling children, male and female. Newborn. Discovered on my wife's property at approximately 10 o'clock last night." "Your wife?" "This is Evelyn Turner. We were married 22 minutes ago by Reverend Alcott." Dilworth looked at Evelyn. Evelyn held out the certificate. The clerk read it. He read it twice. He looked at Jack. He looked at Evelyn. "Jack." "Dilworth. Commissioner Roe's office is going to want to know about this." "I'm sure it is. I'm required to notify." "You're required to file the paperwork first, then notify." Dilworth was quiet. "Dilworth," Jack said. "How long you known me?" 16 years. "I ever lie to you?" "Not once." "I'm asking you to file these papers. I'm asking you to file them at 9:03 on the morning of October 17th, which is the date on the certificate. I'm asking you to stamp them and seal them and put them in the book. After that, you notify whoever you want. That's all I'm asking." Dilworth looked at him a long time. "Who are the babies, Jack?" "I don't know their real names. My wife is naming them." "Well, your wife better name them right now, 'cause I ain't stamping a blank." Evelyn stepped forward. "The girl is Rose. Rose Elizabeth Turner. The boy is Samuel. Samuel Thomas Turner. Thomas after my late husband. Elizabeth after Jack's mother." Jack's head turned toward her. She hadn't asked him that. She'd just known. "Write it down, Dilworth." Dilworth wrote it down. He wrote out the guardianship petition in longhand. He made Jack and Evelyn sign at the bottom. He pulled out the big seal and pressed it into the wax and brought the stamp down on the page with a sound like a small bone breaking. "Filed," he said. 9:07, Book 42, page 16. "I'll telegraph Roe in 30 minutes. That's the earliest I can by law. You got 30 minutes to get clear of Fairfield." "Dilworth, don't thank me, Jack. I owe your daddy for a barn. This is the barn paid in full." Jack tipped his hat. "Dilworth." "Ride." They rode. They were half a mile clear of town when Jack pulled the wagon over under a stand of cottonwoods and stopped the team. Evelyn turned to him. "Jack, why are we stopping?" Evelyn. "Jack. You named her after my mother." "I did." "You didn't ask." "No, I didn't." "Why?" Evelyn looked at him. "Because you named her the minute you laid eyes on her," she said. "You just didn't know it. And Rose is what a man calls a girl he's already decided to die for. I picked the right name. Tell me I picked the right name." Jack Turner, who had not cried in front of a living soul since the fall of 1881, put both his hands over his face. Evelyn reached over. She did not touch his shoulder. She did not touch his arm. She put her hand flat over his heart and she left it there. "Jack, I'm all right." "I know you are." "Evelyn, what we just did. We saved them. We saved them. That's all we did. Whatever else this is, we figure out later. Right now, we get home." He nodded under his hands. He dropped them. He picked up the reins. "Home," he said. "Yes, ma'am." They were 4 miles out of Fairfield when Evelyn saw the dust. "Jack." "I see it." "How many riders?" 3, maybe 4. "Roe." "Got to be." "How'd he know this fast?" "Dillard. Had to be Dillard. Must have doubled back. Saw the certificate on Dilworth's desk." "Jack, they're gonna stop us." "Let 'em stop us. The papers are filed. We are legally the guardians of those children. Roe can't touch 'em on the road." "Roe don't need to touch 'em on the road. He just needs to delay us till his deputies get to Hannah's." Jack's face went white. "Hannah." "Jack." He turned the wagon, not back toward Fairfield. Off the road, hard left into a cattle track that ran along a creek bed. "Jack what?" "Shortcut. Cuts off 2 miles. They won't know it. Only the Turner hands ride it. It's rough." "Hold on." The wagon dropped into the creek bed with a crash that nearly threw Evelyn off the seat. She grabbed the rail. Jack grabbed her elbow with his free hand and did not let go until they were up the other bank. "Evelyn? I'm here. When we get to the house, you go inside. You get those babies. You do not come back out till I tell you to come back out. Understand?" "Jack, I ain't hiding while you—" "Evelyn, for once, please." She looked at him. "All right. Thank you." They crested the last rise at a flat gallop. The Turner Ranch came into view. Hannah was on the porch. 2 men were standing in the yard. Not Roe, deputies. One of them had a paper in his hand. "Jack?" "I see 'em. Jack, they ain't armed heavy." "Don't matter?" He pulled the team up in the yard, hard enough to throw dust on both of them, and he was off the wagon before the horses had stopped. "Gentlemen? Turner. You on my property. Got a writ, Turner. Commissioner Roe. Inspection of 2 foundlings reported on this premises." "Let me see it." The deputy handed it to him. Jack read it. He handed it back. "That writ's dated this morning, 9:15. So at 9:07 this morning, the Fairfield County Clerk filed a petition of guardianship in favor of myself and my wife Evelyn Turner covering the same 2 children, which means, friend, your writ is 8 minutes late. You got no authority to inspect what's already been guardianed." The deputy's jaw went slack. "That ain't possible." "Ride into Fairfield and ask Dilworth yourself. Meanwhile, you get off my land." "Turner, I got orders." "You got orders to inspect a foundling. There ain't a foundling on this property. There's 2 Turner children legally under guardianship of this household, and that writ you're holding don't mean one damn thing. You step toward my porch, you're trespassing. You step toward my sister, you're worse than trespassing. Now ride." The deputies looked at each other. The one with the writ said, "Roe ain't gonna like this." "Roe don't have to like it. He's gonna come out here himself. Let him come. Tell him bring the judge." The deputies mounted. They rode out at a walk because a man who rides out at a gallop has been beaten and knows it, and they would not give Jack that satisfaction. But beaten they were, and all 3 adults standing in the Turner yard knew it. Hannah did not come off the porch until the dust had settled on the road. "Jack?" "Hannah. The babies are inside. They ate twice. Both of them latched strong." "Thank God." "Jack." "Hannah. You're married." "I'm married." "To her." "To her." Hannah walked down the steps. She came up to Evelyn. She looked her up and down. "Evelyn Turner." "Hannah. Welcome home." Evelyn's eyes filled. She couldn't stop it. "Hannah. Come on. Come hold your children. They've been asking for you." "They can't ask yet." "Oh, honey. They've been asking." Evelyn went up the porch steps and inside the house, and the 2 babies were lying side by side in the cradle, and the girl Rose was awake, looking up at the rafters with those wide, dark, unblinking eyes, and Evelyn dropped to her knees next to the cradle and put one hand on each of them. "Rose," she whispered. "Samuel." The girl's head turned just a fraction toward the sound of her voice. "Yes," Evelyn whispered. "That's right. That's your name now. That's who you are. Rose. Samuel. You are Turners, and you are home, and nobody is ever taking you from this house. Nobody. Not Silas Roe. Not the circuit judge. Not the state of Kansas. Nobody." Behind her, the door opened. Jack stepped in. He took off his hat. He stood in the doorway a long moment watching his wife of 1 hour kneel beside 2 children they had not known existed 18 hours before. "Evelyn." "Jack. Roe's coming. I know. He'll be here by tomorrow, maybe tonight. I know. He'll bring the judge. Then we'll meet him with the judge." Jack nodded once. He put his hat on the peg by the door. He did not say anything else. He did not need to. Outside, the wind was picking up off the prairie, and somewhere on the road between Fairfield and the Turner Ranch, Silas Roe was already tearing a telegram in half and calling for his horse and the clock that had started ticking. The moment Evelyn Carter heard the first cry in the dark was ticking faster now. and the courtroom that was waiting for all of them was closer than any of them knew. Inside the house, a baby girl named Rose reached up with one small hand and caught her mother's finger, and would not let go. Rose held on to Evelyn's finger through the feeding, and through the changing, and through the long, quiet half-hour, while Hannah heated a second pan of milk on the stove. When Evelyn finally tried to pull her finger free, the baby made a small sound of complaint and tightened her grip, and Evelyn laughed the first laugh she'd laughed in more years than she could count. "All right, Miss Rose, all right, I ain't going anywhere." Jack was in the kitchen. He had the Winchester across the table and a cleaning rag in one hand. "Jack?" "Evelyn." "He'll come tonight." "He'll come tonight." "With the deputies." "With the deputies and the judge, if he can get one." "Can he?" "Judge Halloran holds evenings in Hayes once a week. Tonight's the night. Rose gonna ride to Hayes, grab Halloran before Halloran sits down to supper and come out here with a court order by dark. That's my guess." "And what do we do?" Jack set the rag down. "We don't run. We don't hide the children. We don't argue with a judge on my porch. He comes, we let him see that the babies are warm, fed, dry, and in the arms of two lawful guardians. Then we hand him the filing from Dilworth, and we let the law be the law. Jack, you trust the law. I trust Halloran more than I trust Roe. That ain't what I asked you." Jack looked up at her. "No, ma'am, I don't trust it, but it's the only card we got that ain't a gun, and I ain't pulling a gun over those babies unless every other road's closed." "Fair enough. Evelyn, there's one more thing. Tell me. Roe's gonna say our marriage ain't real. He'll say it. He'll say we did it for the paper. He'll say the sacrament was fraud. He'll say the guardianship's void because the marriage is void." Evelyn sat down across from him with Rose still holding her finger. "Jack." "Ma'am?" "You let me handle that part." "Evelyn, you let me handle that part." "Jack Turner, when the judge asks you, let me speak first. You agree with what I say. That's all I need from you." Jack looked at her a long time. "All right," he said. "Good." The afternoon went by slow and fast at the same time the way time goes when a person is waiting for a hard thing. Hannah made stew. The boy Samuel woke up hungry twice, and Evelyn fed him both times herself, holding the rigged bottle the way Hannah had shown her watching his small throat work, counting the swallows. Rose was stronger. Rose was already pinker around the mouth. Samuel was still the weaker of the two, and Evelyn did not put him down once between the hours of noon and 4. Around 4:30, a rider came up the north road. Not Roe. Hannah stepped out onto the porch. Pete, the deputy from the Fairfield road. He took his hat off at the gate. "Hannah, you alone. Alone. For now. Come up." He came up. He stood on the porch and would not sit when Hannah offered him a chair. "Jack. Pete. He's coming. I figured. He's got Halloran. He's got Dillard. He's got 4 men. They're riding now. They'll be here inside of 2 hours. 4 men. 2 deputies. 2 he hired out of the Hayes Saloon this afternoon. The hired ones ain't lawmen. They're muscle." Jack's jaw went hard. "Muscle." "Jack, I don't like it either. That's why I rode out ahead. Halloran don't know about the hired men. Halloran thinks it's him, Roe Dillard, and the 2 deputies. If you can get Halloran to see the hired men for what they are, you might have a chance." "Pete." "Jack. Why are you telling me this?" The young deputy looked at the porch boards. "Jack, I got a little girl." "I know you do. I keep thinking about her in that orphanage. I keep thinking about what you said on the road. I keep thinking if it was my Lucy in that wagon and some woman pulled her out, I'd want that woman standing between my Lucy and Silas Roe for the rest of her days. So I'm telling you. You could lose your badge. I can find another job. I can't find another Lucy." Jack held out his hand. Pete took it. "Go?" Jack said. "Ride back. Don't be seen leaving here. If Roe finds out, he won't. Pete." "Jack." "Thank you." The deputy nodded once. He put his hat on. He was on his horse and gone inside of a minute. Evelyn came to the porch door. She had Samuel against her shoulder. Jack? Evelyn. 2 hours. 2 hours. What do we do in 2 hours? We eat. We feed the babies. We put on clean clothes. And when he rides up, we meet him at the gate like we've been expecting him. Which we have. Jack. Ma'am. Thank you. For what? For not making me do this alone. He looked at her. He did not answer in words. He reached out and touched the top of Samuel's head with the flat of his hand, 2 fingers light against the baby's fine hair, and then he turned and went into the kitchen. They ate. Hannah washed the bowls. Evelyn changed into the one clean dress Hannah had that fit her, a dark blue wool plain with buttons up the front. And she put her hair up, and she stood in front of the mirror, and she did not recognize the woman she saw, because the woman she saw was a woman with 2 children and a husband. And she had been neither of those things at sunrise. Jack shaved. He had not shaved in 3 days. When he came out of the back room, his jaw was bare, and he had on a clean shirt and a vest that had belonged to his father. And Hannah looked at him and said, "Jack, you look like Pa." "Hannah, I'm just saying, he'd be proud. You know he would." "I don't want to talk about Pa right now." "All right. Hannah, I want you to take the babies into the back room when they come up the road. Bolt the door. Don't open it for anybody but me or Evelyn. Not the judge, not the deputies, nobody." "Jack." "Hannah, please." Hannah nodded. At 6:45, they heard the riders. Evelyn had Rose in her arms. Samuel was in the cradle. Hannah picked Samuel up and picked up the cradle and carried both into the back room, and Evelyn handed her Rose at the door, and Hannah said, "Evelyn, you remember what you told me about the rifle?" "I remember." "You got that same look now. Good. Go." Hannah closed the door. Evelyn heard the bolt slide. She and Jack went out onto the porch together. 6 riders came up the road in the dusk. One of them wore a black coat and a flat-brimmed hat. 2 of them wore deputy stars. 2 of them wore nothing official and had the hard, loose look of men who'd been paid for the afternoon. And the 6th rider, older than the rest, rode a dapple gray and carried a leather case across his lap. They reined in at the gate. Jack walked down to the gate. Evelyn walked beside him. She did not take his arm. She walked on her own. Commissioner Roe. Turner. Silas Roe was a narrow man. Narrow shoulders, narrow face, narrow mouth. His eyes were the color of wet slate. "This is Judge Halloran," Roe said. "Court of the 18th District." "Judge." "Mr. Turner." "Evening, Judge. Evening, Commissioner. You gentlemen come a long way for a short conversation." Roe smiled a small, unpleasant smile. "Turner, I have a court order signed by Judge Halloran this afternoon directing the delivery of 2 foundling children presently on this premises to the jurisdiction of the Hayes City Home for Abandoned Children. I require you to produce those children." Jack did not move. "Judge Halloran?" "Mr. Turner, did you know, Judge, that when Commissioner Roe asked you to sign that order, there was already a petition of guardianship filed this morning at 9:07 in the Fairfield courthouse in the name of myself and my wife, covering those same 2 children?" The judge's face did not change, but his eyes moved, just once, toward Roe. "No, Mr. Turner, I was not told that. I figured you wasn't, Evelyn." Evelyn pulled the folded certificate from the pocket of her dress. She handed it to the judge. Halloran read it. He read it a second time. He looked up at Roe. "Commissioner." "Your Honor, this is a valid petition, filed before my order was signed, by several hours. Your Honor, the petition is fraudulent. These 2 people were not married at the time of filing. They married 20 minutes prior. The marriage itself is fraudulent. It was performed for the sole purpose of evading this commissioner's lawful authority." The judge turned to Jack. "Mr. Turner, is that true?" Jack opened his mouth to answer. Evelyn's hand closed on his arm. "Your Honor." "Ma'am, Your Honor, my name is Evelyn Turner. I was Evelyn Carter until 8:30 this morning. I am 41 years old. I have been a widow for 6 years. I run a relay station on the east line of this county. At approximately 10 o'clock last night, I heard a child crying from an abandoned cattle wagon on my property. I went to the wagon. I found 2 newborns. One was near dead. I carried them both back to my station and fed them sugar water and prayed. Then Jack Turner came to my door. He rode 4 miles in the cold to tell me a door standing open after dark meant a woman was in trouble. He took us to his sister's. She had milk. She saved the babies' lives. This morning, Your Honor, he told me that the commissioner at your right hand makes $50 a head on every foundling he delivers, and he told me that the orphanage in Hayes City buries more children than it raises, and he told me the only way in law to keep those babies off that commissioner's transfer list was for us to be married. And he asked me, Your Honor, as plain as a man ever asked a woman, and I said yes. I said yes because I heard those babies in the dark, and I ran toward them, and once a woman has done that, Your Honor, she does not walk back the other way. Not for the law, not for the commissioner, not for the devil himself. So yes, we were married this morning by Reverend Alcott in Fairfield, in his parsonage, with his wife as witness, before God. We exchanged vows, and we exchanged rings, and I will wear this ring, Your Honor, for as long as I draw breath, because I swore I would, and I do not swear light. Commissioner Roe can say our marriage is fraudulent. He can say what he wants. But he was not standing in that parsonage. He did not hear what I said to that man. He did not see what that man said back. I did. Reverend Alcott did. God did. And one more thing, Your Honor. I named those children this morning. The girl is Rose, after Jack's mother. The boy is Samuel, after my late husband. I did not ask Jack before I named her Rose. I did not have to ask him. I knew. That's the marriage, Your Honor. That's the whole marriage right there. The judge did not say anything for a long moment. Rose started to speak. The judge held up one hand. Commissioner, you will be silent. Roe closed his mouth. Mr. Turner, Your Honor, is your wife's account accurate in every particular? Yes, Your Honor. Every word. You married her this morning for the purpose of legally protecting 2 foundling children. Your Honor, I married her this morning because she is the only woman I have met in 6 years who would run into the dark for a sound she didn't understand. The children are the reason we married today. They are not the reason I married her. Evelyn turned her head just a little. She had not expected that. The judge saw it. The judge was an old man, and he had heard a great many things said in the course of his work, and he knew the difference between the things men said in a courtroom and the things men said that were true. Mr. Turner, Mrs. Turner, step back. They stepped back. Judge Halloran turned in his saddle. Commissioner Roe. Your Honor? Who are those 2 men on the end? Roe blinked. Deputies, Your Honor. They are not wearing stars. They are temporary. They are hired men, Commissioner, out of a saloon in Hayes. I know one of them. His name is Corbin, and he was in my courtroom 11 months ago for assault of a boarding house keeper. Roe's face went the color of ash. Your Honor, I can explain. You will explain in my chambers on Monday morning, Commissioner, at which time you will also explain certain discrepancies in the disbursement records of the Hayes City Home for Abandoned Children, which the Territorial Auditor has been kind enough to forward to my office this week. In the meantime, Commissioner, you will dismount, you will hand me your writ, and you will go home. Your Honor. Go. Home. Silas. Roe got off his horse. He handed over the writ. His hands were shaking. The judge tore the writ in half. He handed both halves back. Deputies, ride with the commissioner to the county line. Make sure he arrives. The hired men will ride directly back to Hayes and will not set foot on this ranch or the Carter station ever again. Am I understood? Yes, Your Honor, the deputies said together. Go. They went. Silas Roe did not look back. Judge Halloran sat his horse for a long moment after they were gone. Mr. Turner? Your Honor. Mrs. Turner? Your Honor. I will issue a formal order of temporary guardianship first thing Monday morning, consolidating your Fairfield filing with a territorial ratification. Final guardianship hearing will be held in 6 months, subject to a home inspection by an officer of this court, which I will conduct personally. Do you have any objection to a personal inspection? No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. Good. Mrs. Turner. Your Honor, my wife is buried in the churchyard at Fairfield. I visit her every Sunday. I have heard a great many speeches in my career on the nature of a marriage. Yours was the best. Evelyn's throat closed. Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Turner. Good evening, Your Honor. He tipped his hat. He turned his horse. He rode away down the north road alone, because he had come out from Hayes alone, and he would go back alone, and the dusk closed up behind him like a door. Evelyn stood at the gate. Her legs would not quite hold her. Jack put his arm around her waist. She did not step away. They stood there together until the riders were out of sight, and then Jack said very quiet, Evelyn. Jack? I meant what I said, to the judge. I know. You knew before he said it. I knew when you touched Samuel's head this afternoon. Jack did not say anything. Evelyn turned in his arm. She looked up at him. Jack Ezekiel Turner. Ma'am, you can kiss me again, if you want. And this time it don't have to be quick. He kissed her. It was not quick. Behind them in the house, the bolt slid back on the back room door, and Hannah stepped out with a baby in each arm, and she saw them at the gate, and she did not call to them, and she did not interrupt. And she simply stood in the doorway with Rose and Samuel pressed against her and waited, because she had a feeling standing there that the thing happening at the gate was the thing the rest of their lives was going to be built on, and that the two of them deserved the minute it took to happen. They went back up the porch together, Jack with his arm still around Evelyn's waist, and Hannah stepped aside to let them in without a word, because some moments do not need greeting. Evelyn took Samuel first. She held him to her collarbone and felt his breath against her neck, and she knew the way a woman knows without being told that this child was going to live. Hannah? Evelyn. You heard. Every word. Through the door. Through the door, through the window, through my bones. You did a thing at that gate tonight, Evelyn Turner. We did a thing. You did. Jack took Rose from his sister. The baby opened her eyes and fixed them on his face, and Jack Turner, who had not held a living child since the fall of 1881, held his breath. Hannah, look at her. I'm looking, Jack. She knows me. Of course she knows you. You're her daddy. Jack's mouth worked. He did not speak for a minute. When he did, all he said was, all right, that was all. The first weeks were hard in the small, relentless way that raising newborns is always hard. Rose slept in 4-hour stretches, and Samuel slept in 2, and neither one slept when the other was awake. Evelyn moved into the Turner ranch the 3rd day, bringing 2 trunks and a cast-iron skillet, and Thomas Carter's old pocket watch, and Jack put his father's rocking chair in the front room, so she would have somewhere to sit at 3 in the morning when Samuel was fussing and would not settle. The relay station sat empty for 10 days. On the 11th day, Hannah's cousin Mary Ellen, widowed that summer, and looking for something to do with her hands, rode up and asked if she could run it. Evelyn rode out with her. She walked Mary Ellen through the stock and the ledger and the flag system for the mail riders, and she handed her the keys, and she said, "You keep half what you earn. The other half goes to the baby's schooling." "Evelyn, that's too much." "It ain't. Take it." Mary Ellen took it. On the way home that afternoon, Evelyn sat next to Jack on the wagon seat, and she said, "Jack." "Ma'am." "You don't call me ma'am no more." "Evelyn." "Better." "What is it?" "I've been thinking about the cattle wagon, the one on the East Line." "What about it?" "Somebody put them in there. A woman. She cut the cord. She wrapped them in a cavalry blanket, and then she left them. I keep thinking, who was she, Jack, and where is she now?" Jack was quiet a long stretch of road. "Evelyn, you want to look for her?" "I don't know what I want. If she's alive, she might come back for them." "I know. You'd let her." Evelyn looked down at her hands. "Jack, I don't know what I'd do, but she was somebody's daughter, and she was so scared or so sick or so broken that she put her babies in a cattle wagon and walked away. That ain't a woman who wanted to leave them, Jack. That's a woman who thought she had nowhere else to put them. Evelyn. And if she comes back for them one day, I want her to find them well. Jack reached over. He covered her hand with his. Then we make sure they're well. Yes. Evelyn. Jack, that's why I married you. She had no answer to that. She just turned her hand over under his. They never found the mother. Not that year. Not the next. Jack made careful inquiries through the Pritchard boy, who ran the mail, through a cousin of Hannah's, who worked at the dry goods store in Hayes, through a woman in Fort Dodge, who kept records of the poor. No one had a story that matched. The cattle wagon itself had come from a drover 6 months before abandoned, when the man's team threw a shoe, and he never came back for it. How a woman with 2 newborns had found her way to it, or whether she had been brought there against her will, or whether she had died somewhere on the prairie after she left it, these were questions that stayed unanswered for a long time. But Evelyn did one thing. She had a small wooden box made, and in it she put a scrap of the cavalry blanket and a lock of hair from each of the twins, and a short letter in her own hand. The letter began, "If you are the woman who left them, I want you to know they are loved." And it ended, "They know they had another mother once. They will know you if you come." She kept the box on the mantel. She never took it down. Silas Roe stood trial in the spring. Judge Halloran presided. The territorial auditor's records showed 43 foundlings transferred through Roe's office over 3 years at $50 a head, and cross-referenced against the Hayes City Home's own ledgers, they showed 29 of those children unaccounted for. Some had died. Some had been sold to labor houses 2 states away. Some had disappeared in ways the home's director, testifying under immunity, could not or would not say. Roe was stripped of his commission. He was sentenced to 8 years in the territorial prison at Lansing. He served 6. He came out a small man, smaller than he had gone in, and he did not return to the county. The Hayes City Home was shut down by order of the territory. A new home was opened 2 years later under different management, with an oversight board that included, by Judge Halloran's personal appointment, Mrs. Evelyn Turner of the Turner Ranch. She sat on that board for 19 years. The guardianship hearing came the following spring, 6 months to the day, from the night at the cattle wagon. Judge Halloran rode out personally, as he had said he would. He walked through the Turner house room by room. He looked into the cradle where Samuel was asleep with his fist against his cheek. He picked up Rose, who by then was sitting up and reaching for any beard within arm's length, and she grabbed his gray whiskers and pulled, and he laughed out loud. "Mrs. Turner." "Your Honor, this child is going to be trouble." "Your Honor, I know she is." "Good." He signed the final order on the kitchen table. Permanent guardianship, transitioning to full adoption on the twins' first birthday, with the formal family name of Turner. He shook Jack's hand. He tipped his hat to Evelyn. At the door, he paused. "Mrs. Turner?" "Your Honor." "My wife would have liked you." "I believe I would have liked her, Your Honor." "Good day, ma'am." "Good day." He rode off down the North Road, and that was the last official visit the Turner household ever had about the matter of Rose and Samuel. Not one more knock, not one more writ, not one more stranger at the gate. The years came on the way. Years do, on a ranch calving, branding, haying. Winter calving again. Samuel learned to walk 2 weeks before Rose, which surprised everyone who had watched the 2 of them as newborns and thought he would be the slower. Rose learned to talk first and never stopped. By the time they were 3, she was giving orders to the ranch hands, and by the time they were 5, she was correcting Jack's grammar at the supper table, and Jack would look across at Evelyn and shake his head, and Evelyn would say, "You made her Jack Turner," and Jack would say, "I sure did," and he would say it the way a man says a thing that is true, and that cost him something he would have paid twice over. Samuel was the quieter one. He followed Jack. From the time he was big enough to sit a saddle, he sat one, and he was 8 years old the first time he roped a calf on his own, and Jack took him up to the north pasture afterward, and sat with him in the long grass and said, "Your granddad would have liked to see that, son." And Samuel said, "Which granddad?" And Jack said, "Both of 'em. Mine and your mama's Thomas. They're both watching. You did good." Samuel looked up at him. He had Evelyn's eyes. They had always been Evelyn's eyes from the second week of his life. "Pa. Son. Mama said once she said I was named for somebody who died before I was born." "That's right." "She said he was a good man." "He was." "Pa, is it hard being named for somebody dead?" Jack thought about it a long time. "No, son, it's a gift. It means somebody good had a name and somebody good gets to carry it. That's all it is. You ain't him. You're you. You just carry his name, like you'd carry a pocket watch." "All right, Pa." "All right, son." They told the children the truth early. Evelyn had insisted on that. When Rose was 6 and Samuel was 6, and they were old enough to understand what it meant. She sat them on the front porch one summer evening, and she told them the whole story. The cry in the dark, the wagon, the blanket, the ride on the horse through the cold, Jack at the door, Hannah at the stove, the marriage in Fairfield, the judge in the yard. Rose listened with her chin in her hands. Samuel listened with one hand on his mother's knee. When Evelyn was done, Rose said, "So, we ain't really yours?" Evelyn had prepared for this question for 6 years. Rose Elizabeth Turner. "Mama, look at me." Rose looked at her. "You were born to a woman I never met. I don't know her name. I don't know if she's alive. I've prayed for her every night since the night you were born, and I will pray for her every night till I die. She gave you to me, Rose. She gave you and your brother to me. She couldn't keep you. She did the only thing she could do. She put you somewhere she hoped you'd be found. And I found you. So you ain't mine by blood, child. You are mine by the running. I ran for you, and I stayed. Ain't nothing more mine than that." Rose was quiet. Samuel beside her reached for his mother's hand. "Mama." "Samuel. Did Pa run for us too?" "Oh, sweet boy. Your Pa rode 4 miles in the cold to a door he didn't know because he thought somebody might be in trouble. And when he got there and he saw you, he didn't leave. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not when the commissioner came. Not ever. Your Pa ran for you for the rest of his life, Samuel. He's still running." Samuel looked down at his small hand in hers. "I'm glad he ran." "Me too, baby. Me too." Rose, after a long time, said, "Mama." "Rose, I don't need another mother." "You don't have to need one. I got one. You got one." "Okay." That was the whole conversation. Rose got up and she went and found a grasshopper, and she brought it to Samuel, and Samuel held it for a minute and then let it go, and they went to find their father in the barn. Evelyn sat on the porch alone for a long time. Hannah came out eventually. She sat down beside her. "They took it all right. They took it all right." "I knew they would." "I didn't." "Yes, you did. You raised them too." Evelyn put her head on Hannah's shoulder. It surprised her that she did it. She had not been a woman who leaned on people for most of her life. But Hannah Turner had stood in her kitchen with a pan of warm milk at 4 in the morning on the worst night of Evelyn's life, and Hannah Turner had kept her own counsel about 1,000 things since, and Evelyn laid her head on Hannah's shoulder now the way a sister leans on a sister. "Hannah." "Evelyn. I love my children." "I know you do. I love them more than I ever loved anything." "I know, honey. I love them more than the air." "Yes." "How did she leave them?" Hannah was quiet. "Evelyn, I don't know. I've been thinking on that for 6 years and I still don't know. But I'll tell you one thing I'm sure of." "What?" "Whatever made her leave them, it was bigger than her. And she did what she could. And she trusted the world to send somebody. And the world did. And that somebody was you." Evelyn closed her eyes. "Thank you, Hannah. Get off my shoulder, it's going to sleep." Evelyn laughed. She sat up. Jack came out of the barn. Samuel was on his shoulders. Rose was riding the yearling mare without a saddle because Rose had decided at 5 that saddles were a formality, and no one had yet been able to argue her out of it. Evelyn. Jack. Come here a minute. She got up. She went to him. He put Samuel down, and Samuel ran to chase his sister. And Jack took Evelyn's face in both his hands, and he kissed her on the forehead. What was that for? For the gate. Jack, that was 7 years ago. Yep. And you still kiss me for that gate. I'll kiss you for that gate till the day I die. Evelyn Turner. That was the day everything started. You think I forget a day like that? You are an old fool. I am. I love you. I know you do. Rose grew up tall. She grew up with her mother's stubbornness and her father's quiet, and somewhere in the blood that nobody in the Turner house knew anything about, she got a gift for numbers that nobody could explain. She went to college at 19, one of the first women in her class. She became a teacher. She came home summers and taught at the little schoolhouse in Fairfield, and she married a rancher's son from 2 counties over when she was 24, and her first child was a girl, and she named the girl Evelyn, and she brought her home and put her in Evelyn's arms and said, "Mama, meet your namesake." And Evelyn Turner cried harder than she had cried at any funeral or any wedding in her life. Samuel grew up quiet and capable. He stayed at the ranch. He worked beside his father through every season, and when Jack's knees gave out in his 60s, Samuel took over the cattle. And when Jack could not sit a horse anymore, Samuel ran the whole operation, and he never left. Not once. Not for anything. And when Jack Turner died in his own bed at the age of 79, with Evelyn holding one hand and Samuel holding the other, the last thing Jack Turner said was, "Son, you look after your mother." And Samuel said, "Yes, Pa, I will." And he did. Evelyn lived to be 84. She outlived Hannah by 11 years. She outlived Judge Halloran by 2 decades. She lived to see Rose's children and Samuel's children, and one great-grandchild, a boy, who was set on her lap when he was a week old, and who grabbed her finger and would not let go the way Rose had grabbed her finger in a wooden cradle in a ranch kitchen 83 years before. And Evelyn held the baby and looked down at him, and she laughed, the small, startled laugh she had laughed that first morning, and she said, "Well, hello, little man. Welcome home." She died that winter quietly in the same rocking chair Jack had put by the fire for her the first week she came to the ranch. Samuel was with her. So was Rose, who had ridden through the night from 2 counties over with her husband driving the wagon and her oldest daughter holding the lantern. When the end came, Rose laid her head on her mother's shoulder, the way Evelyn had once laid her head on Hannah's, and she said, "Mama, thank you for running." And Evelyn, half gone, already squeezed her daughter's hand and said, "Baby, you were worth every step." They buried her next to Jack in the small family plot on the rise behind the house. Samuel read the words. Rose sang. The wooden box came off the mantel for the first time in 80-some years, and a scrap of cavalry blanket, and 2 locks of infant hair, and a letter were buried with her the way she had asked, and the story passed down. It passed to Rose's children, and to Samuel's, and to their children after, and to every child who sat on the porch of the Turner Ranch on a summer night and asked an old hand to tell them how it began. It always began the same way. A widow heard a cry in the dark. A cowboy rode to a door he did not know. A judge listened to a speech at a gate. A reverend signed a paper. A child grabbed a finger and would not let go. And those small things done by ordinary people on an ordinary October night in the middle of nowhere built a family that lasted 4 generations. Family is not who you are born to. Family is who runs toward you in the dark, and who stays when the sun comes up, and who is still there when the years have turned your hair white, and your children have children of their own. Evelyn Carter ran toward a sound she did not understand on a night she did not expect for 2 lives she had not known existed an hour before. And because she ran, 2 children lived, and because she stayed, they lived well. And that is the whole story. That is the whole story. And it is the only story that ever mattered, and it will be told on that ranch for as long as that ranch is standing, and on the day it stops being told, the wind over the Kansas prairie will tell it instead, because some stories belong to the land now, and this is one of them. The twins were abandoned. The twins were chosen. And in the choosing a family was made that no law, no commissioner, no court, and no grave was ever able to break. That is what love is. Love is the running. Love is the staying. And on an October night in rural Kansas, in the year of our Lord 1887, love ran barefoot across a frozen yard to a rusted cattle wagon, and it never once looked back.